My brother started dating Big Cheryl in 6th grade. He's 25 now, to show how long this has been going on. To say that he and Big Cheryl were toxic together is an understatement. They had breakups and then got back together over 1,000 times. My entire family would go through the roller coaster ride with him, and we'd always see him date a really nice girl. Then Big Cheryl would get in touch with promises, and he'd dump the nice girl and be right back into Big Cheryl's arms. It has been about 2 years since their last breakup, and he met a girl named Carly, who's a peach. We all love everything about her. My brother finally went no contact with Big Cheryl at the time he met Carly and has 2 years of relationship bliss. They got married on Saturday. My brother says he blocked Big Cheryl on everything, and I'm inclined to believe him since it's been 2 years since her stench has darkened our doors. We had a very low-key bachelor party on Friday, in which we played poker and smoked cigars. At about 11:30 p.m., Big Cheryl texted me and asked if the wedding was really taking place. I said yes, and not to bother him. She said to please let him know her heart was breaking, but she'd show up for a personal bachelor party if he were so inclined. I didn't say anything to my brother that night, but the next day on the way from the ceremony to the reception, I made a joke about Big Cheryl contacting me, and you could see the blood drain from his face. All he said was, "Thanks." Well, later in the evening, Carly caught my brother in the kitchen of the reception place on the phone with Big Cheryl. They had a huge fight, and while they tried to put on a good face for the rest of the reception, it was cold as ice for the rest of the night. My brother came over now and said that I ruined his life by telling him that Big Cheryl had gotten in touch with me. I guess he and Carly had been fighting nonstop since Saturday, and there's talk of canceling the honeymoon. My brother totally blames me and says I should have known better. Was I the idiot for telling him that Big Cheryl was trying to get in touch with him? Not the idiot. He was calling his toxic ex of years from the reception of their wedding. I'd say that would upset most people. He has no business getting married. Carly deserves better than marrying a guy who's so hung up on his toxic ex. You're showing Carly who he is early so she can hopefully run. I do have to wonder what the end game was for OP in telling his brother, though, and why OP hadn't blocked Cheryl's number when he had no reason to stay in contact with her either, and had no reason to want her in his brother's life. The brother definitely needs to get himself together, and I hurt for Carly, but there are some missing pieces in this story that OP's telling. It almost feels like sabotage. An ex showed up to a personal bachelor party. You are so right. My first instinct was no, what happened at the party? But yes, Carly obviously deserves someone whose heart is 100% hers. Yet as OP kinda let it slip and didn't mention Carly as a reason to do so, I'd say he's accidentally spilled the tea. You are the idiot, OP. I guess I don't understand what logic you were following. Your brother blocked her so she could only reach out to him through you, and you decide his wedding day was a good day to bring it up? Your brother is to blame here, of course. The dude has zero impulse control with anything Big Cheryl related. He honestly sounds like he needs help letting her go. But you must have known bringing up his ex would not end well, even if he didn't end up calling or meeting her. But you did it anyway on his wedding day. Would you prefer he slip up later so the poor girl has a divorce to deal with? This was going to happen at some time. It's better she saw the red flag now than later. If the brother honestly has that little self-control, he shouldn't be getting married. Poor Carly, too bad she had to meet you guys, but at least she's still in range for an annulment of the marriage. I have 3 kids, a teen son and pre-tween twin daughters. They all get along well. My son loves his sisters and vice versa. Sometimes my husband and I have to go to certain events, and I ask my son if he can watch his sisters for the night. He usually says yes unless he has plans. I just ask my mom then. So on Friday night, we had an event to go to, and I again asked my son if he'd be willing to babysit. He said sure, and that was it. We came back at around midnight, and I went to check on the kids, and my son was fast asleep, while one of the twins was puking her guts out, and the other one was crying. I was surprised, but I also didn't really blame my son. They weren't really making any noise and were asleep before it all broke loose. Well, I managed to calm my girls down, and they ended up telling me how their big brother was mean and grumpy all day, and when they asked for food, He gave them a jar of peanut butter. The twins can't have peanut butter. They aren't allergic, but it makes them ill. The girls know as well, but they were hungry, and they said they had to eat it. My son knows this. The peanut butter is kept out of the twins' sight and reach and is only in the house for him. I woke him up the next morning and asked him if all of this was true. He just made a noise and was all like, "The little snitches." Yeah, so they had a little peanut butter. What's the big deal? I told him that he knows they can't have it. And not only that, but I also didn't like how they described his attitude, especially when he told them they had to eat it. He just told me to stop overthinking. He forgot peanut butter makes them that sick. He only said they had to eat it because he didn't want them hungry. He didn't feel like ordering, cooking, or warming up leftovers either, and the twins were annoying. I told him that these excuses were not good enough, and that what he did was honestly kind of cruel. I told him I didn't know if I could trust him with the girls anymore either. He just rolled his eyes and told me that I was being dramatic, and that the twins would be fine. I don't need to act like this. He's really upset with me, and every time his dad or I say anything, he'll just reply with, "Oh, I thought I was cruel. I thought you couldn't trust me." He's not budging, and he's not normally like this. So I'm wondering, am I the idiot? My sister told me to post here since I'm so conflicted. Didn't think it would hurt. Not the idiot. If this had been someone other than your son, I'd call it abuse and assault, certainly negligent. He's clearly unreliable, and I'd be very upset. You letting your son talk to you in such a manner is also alarming. He needs a therapist. Cruelty without remorse isn't normal. OP, I really don't understand why you're worried that you may be dramatic and that your son is really upset with you. Come on, OP. You are 100% right that your son was cruel and unkind and that you shouldn't trust him. Now please impose some actual consequences without doubting yourself. I'm concerned about all the kids involved here. Has there been a sharp change in his behavior recently? Is there possibly a need of his that's not being met? He may feel like the twins are getting preferential treatment. I'd explore that route first. Something is not right if he's all of a sudden causing intentional harm to his younger siblings. Keep the younger one safe and have a real talk with the older one. If he's unwilling to talk to you, take him to a professional. I don't want to cause any unnecessary alarm or worry, but this is something that absolutely needs to be taken seriously. You are the idiot. Please take all the peanut butter out of the house. They're allergic. Just because it doesn't show in the well-known ways doesn't mean they aren't. That's the thing with allergies. Sometimes the symptoms are mild. Sometimes they're deadly. You're very, very, very lucky that their reaction wasn't much worse, especially with that much peanut butter. It's lucky you came home to puking and crying and not silence. I beg of you to get rid of the peanut butter and take them to an allergy specialist to see if there's anything else that they're allergic to. I, male 39, have been married to my wife, Stacy, for 5 years, and we have 2 children together. I also share 3 children with my ex-wife, Hannah, 37. Ever since Stacy and I got together, she's made it very clear to me that my 3 children are mine and Hannah's responsibility, not hers. This has worked out well so far, but lately it's been taking a toll on me. I pay Hannah child support every month. Ever since Stacy had our first child, she's demanded that I give her the same amount of money each month to keep things fair. In addition, I have to pay for half of our joint household expenses, i.e. mortgage, utilities, food, and my own car. Stacy pays for the majority of the expenses for our children. Here lies the problem. Stacy has never taken issues with having to care for my and Hannah's children. She picks them up from school, takes them to activities, and ensures they have everything they need. However, anytime she purchases anything for them, she immediately sends me a Venmo request and demands I cover all expenses related to the children that are not hers. We recently went on a family vacation, and she demanded that I pay for half of the portion for our children and all of the portion for Hannah's. I told her that all these expenses were taking a hit on my finances, and she didn't seem to care. Instead, she reiterated that my children are my responsibility. To add insult to injury, she recently started contributing money to college funds for her kids, while Hannah and I have nothing saved for our kids' college. Hannah found out and asked that I start funds for our kids. When I talked with Stacy about this, she said this was fine, but I had to put the same amount of money in the fund she had set up for our kids. I told Stacy I needed her to start paying her fair share of expenses around our household. I cannot afford to pay child support, household expenses, and all these miscellaneous expenses for my kids. It wouldn't hurt her financially, as she makes more than me and could easily spare some money. Instead, Stacy blew up at me and took our children to her parents' house, and I haven't heard from her in a day and a half. Am I the idiot for demanding that she pay her fair share? You are the idiot. Stacy is paying half of the household expenses. Stacy's paying for the majority of the things for the 2 children you have with her. In addition, Stacy's helping you with childcare for 3 children that are not her own. Stacy does not have to contribute to their college funds. That's for you and Hannah to sort out. It's not her fault that neither you nor Hannah thought about this until she was proactive about her children's future. Dude, you have 5 kids. 5. It's not Stacy's problem that you're struggling to support your 5 kids. It sounds like she's more than pulling her weight with the household and the kids. I'm not sure why you would ask her to pay her fair share when it sounds like she's already overpaying. You're going to be paying 2 loads of child support if you don't stop and think about this and understand what people are telling you. You are a father to 5 children. It doesn't matter who lives in what house, etc. You pay child support to support your 3 eldest children. Your 2 youngest children are still your responsibility, not just Stacy's. You should be contributing towards them. You should have gotten a vasectomy if you couldn't support all those kids. Welcome to the consequences of having too many. You'll see your wallet again once they're all grown. I have split custody of my 2 sons, Diego tween and Sasha, younger tween, with my ex, Josie. About a year after we split up, Josie got pregnant with Eva from a one-night stand. That guy never stepped up. He's broke, so he doesn't pay child support and would stop by every now and then when Eva was young, but hasn't been since she was a toddler. I'm pretty good friends with Josie and will invite her and all 3 kids over when I have cookouts and stuff like that. Through the years, I've watched Eva for Josie as a favor here and there. They go to the same school, so sometimes I'll pick all 3 of them up and drop them off at Josie's on her weeks when she's busy, but I have some time. I don't play a fatherly role, though, and don't really want to. The other day when I picked them up from school, Josie asked me if I wanted to stay for dinner. We had a nice meal and hung around for a while. When I went to leave, Diego and Sasha hugged me goodbye and said, "Bye, Dad." Eva also hugged me and called me that as well. I figured it was a mix-up and I went, "What was that, Eva?" She goes, "Oh, sorry. Meant to ask if I could call you that now." I told her I'd rather her call me my name. I'm not comfortable with that, and I don't want that responsibility on me. She seemed sad, and I thought that was that. But since then, Josie told me I was being a real jerk, saying it's not like she's asking for child support from her, but I should still let her call me that and be flattered. I don't really like it though, and I'm afraid of future expectations if she gets used to it. Am I the idiot for that? Not the idiot. That's not your child. You're doing enough to include her with your kids periodically. Letting her call you dad sets her up for heartache down the road. It was good to set that boundary now. Josie needs to also talk to her and get her in some therapy to deal with an absent father. You are in no way responsible for filling that void. You are not her dad, period. You are a positive male role model in her life. That's a very good thing. Blurring the lines by letting her call you dad would create problems for everyone involved. In some states, just behaving like the father and playing the role makes you liable for child support. Instead of being mad at you, your ex needs to have a conversation with her daughter. My stepsister, 18, and I, 18 female, are both college students. I went to community college in my hometown to be near my paternal side of the family and old friends. Currently, I live with my 3 best friends from childhood. My sister was meant to be in university, but after a month, she decided it was not for her, and she wanted to try for late admission to the community college I attend, allegedly. When this happened, I got a call from my mom saying she wanted to live with us and she and her husband would pay her rent. I told my mom that would not be happening and that I wouldn't be considering it. Background: My stepsister and I met when we were 9. My mom had an affair with her dad. My dad died before the divorce could be finalized, and my mom was pretty much shunned by people who knew what she had done, so they decided to move us all to where they live now. I was heartbroken to leave everyone I loved behind after losing my dad. However, she was super excited and way too clingy. She wanted a sister and best friend, someone to be with 24/7. It was aggravating because she would jump right to telling my mom when I asked her to leave me alone. If I was planning something without her, or if I didn't want to go do something she wanted to do, pretty much every time I said no, she would run to make it happen. She'd tell me I had to spend time with her because that's what family does. She never cared if I wanted to do anything. When we were 16, she had me grounded for 2 months because I told my history teacher that I was an only child and that my dad was dead. She heard about that and then told them, saying she and her dad were my sister and dad, and how it was awful to say he was dead and he wasn't. My mom was furious at me for bringing up the past. I never told them my college plans so I could get away from all of them. I've always suspected she might have known or applied everywhere and made her choice based on where I was. Regardless, I was done when I moved out in June. I've gone no contact with my mom and her husband and stepsister. I had dodged their calls for months, but then my mom got smart and called me elsewhere. My mom was furious that I said no. Then my stepsister showed up at my grandparents' house, who are nothing to her, wanting to know where I lived. They called me after sending her away. She showed up at my school and told me she needed somewhere to live and was in a shelter. I told her it wasn't my problem and she would not live with me. After that, I got a string of messages from different numbers my mom and her husband got their hands on. Then my maternal grandma called and told me I should have let her stay. She said I should consider her an ally and not blame her for the past, etc. She told me I was behaving unfairly. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It sounds like your mom is a selfish narcissist. She broke her marriage and then upended your life to suit her selfish choice. It doesn't sound like you were ever a priority, and there's no reason for you to suffer for them any longer. Agree. Just because your mom married her affair partner doesn't make what she did to your dad all right. And it doesn't make him your dad or his daughter your sister. You owe your stepsister nothing. That being said, this doesn't seem to be based solely on that incident. You've put up with 9 years of being forced into this relationship with your stepsister, and it sounds like your feelings were never taken into consideration, only hers. Her forcing the issue at every turn was not being an ally. You're an adult now, and you can choose who's in your life and who you call family. End of story. I would also tell the stepsister that she's trespassing if she ever shows up at your house. Document all of this with police reports. This is toxic behavior, and you are allowed to live harassment-free. OP, if your mom was willing to pay her rent for her to live with you, there's no way she's at a homeless shelter now.